Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Frank Montejo, and on behalf of Devon Hardware, I'd like to welcome you to today's presentation. Today's class is just one of a series that we host during the course of the year on various subjects. While they're all different, they all have certain things in common. They're always free. We try to make it as interesting as we possibly can, and we have to make sure that they're relevant and pertinent to your own needs. And we host these classes for different reasons. We host them as a way to be able to highlight new products and to let you know what we do here at Devon Hardware. We also do it as a way to be able to connect with the community and to our neighbors, and also as a way to just say thank you for your patronage and for your support over the course of the years. So with that said, let's get started. Today's class is on toilet installation and repair. Now, first of all, it's important to know the different kinds of toilets that are available out there. So we could start with manufacturers. There's any number of manufacturers that are out there. And if we just started like in alphabetical order, you could talk about American Standard, you could talk about Crane, talk about Gerber, you could talk about Kohler, Mansfield, Peerless, and just Toto, and you can work your way down the line. There's also European manufacturers like Laufen and Villeroy and Bach. And there's also a lot of different house lines that are out there that are house labeled for different big box companies. They all have certain things in common, and they all have major differences. And as far as toilets go, there's basically three different kind of toilets that are out there. There are one-piece toilets, and just like the name implies, it's just one solid piece of vitreous china that's manufactured and fired at a factory. Very stylish, very quiet. We don't have any on display here, but we sell quite a few of them here. Gerber, which is a company that is the majority of our sales, makes a great product like that. So if you're looking for something very quiet, very stylish, that would be a good choice. The majority of toilets that are installed are called two-piece or close-coupled combinations. This is a close-coupled combination, as is this one here. And close-coupled means you have a separate tank that is mechanically coupled to the bowl below it. And that's coupled to it either using 2 bolts or 3 bolts and has a gasket in between it. Now these kind of toilets, close-coupled combinations, are available in different varieties. They're available regular bowl, which means it's a round bowl, standard height, which is roughly 14 to 15 inches from the finished floor to the rim of the toilet. They're also available elongated bowl, which is about 2 inches longer, and it's also available elongated bowl, ADA height, comfort height, or universal height. They're all the same names for the same thing, which means it's a little bit taller, approximately 17 inches from the finished floor to the edge of the rim. This is an advantage if someone is especially tall, if someone has bad legs, bad back, or if a person is in a wheelchair or in a walker. It's much easier to make that transfer. It's also a requirement for all commercial work. So if you own a restaurant, if you have an office where you have the public using your restroom, you're required to have something ADA or comfort height, and typically with not a regular seat like this one, but with an open front seat without a cover. So other than the one-piece toilets, the two-piece toilets that you see here, there's also spud bowls. Now spud bowls, just like the name implies, is a bowl that has a spud in it. Now these spuds, this is an example of a spud. This happens to be an 1.5 inch spud, and if you were to remove this here and take this off, there would either be a plastic or a brass spud in there. Now these bowls here are available, different varieties too. They're available round bowl like you see here, elongated, and also comfort height or ADA heights. They're also available with a back spud. Now the back spud was a very commonly used style of bowl. While this spud here is up on the top, the same bowl could be available with the spud coming out of the back. There is only one manufacturer who makes a back spud bowl, and that's Gerber Manufacturing, and that's the company we represent here, or we buy their products and we sell them. Those bowls are available in a 10-inch rough, back spud, and they're designed for a Sloan valve. Now, the Sloan valve is just the name of a manufacturer. A Sloan valve is just another manufacturer of a flushometer. The person who invented the flushometer, his name was Sloan, and it's a Franklin Park company, so it's a local company. When he designed this, he envisioned that there would be no more tank and bowl toilets. This was going to be the only kind of toilet that would be installed. A great idea, and the design of it is virtually, it's changed, but not changed by much from the time when he first envisioned this in the 20s. The only problem is the Depression hit. When the Depression hit, there were no holes in the ground. If there's no holes in the ground, and there are no cranes, and there's no building going on, there's no need for valves like these. Now, before you buy any kind of toilet, there has to be a reason that you buy a toilet. Toilets are either replaced, or typically for one of maybe 3 or 4 reasons. Either new construction, remodeling, rehab, or replacement. Replacement is really a euphemism for something that's broken, or it just isn't working at all. If it's new construction, you can buy anything that you want. Absolutely anything that you want. Round, elongated, ADA height, comfort height, 1-piece, 2-piece, you name it. You tell your plumbing professional what you want, he or she will rough it in for you, and you can go from there. Now, if it's remodeling work, where you have an existing toilet there, and you're planning on removing it and changing it, then there are certain variables that you have to entertain and you have to address. Toilets like a tank and bowl combination are available in 3 different roughs. Now, the rough refers to the distance from the finished wall to the center of the closet collar, which is the part that the actual toilet is mounted to. This is actually a closet collar here. Now, the closet collar is what this bowl and this bowl is actually mechanically fastened to. Now, this closet collar here is sitting on something that's called a closet bend. This is a service weight closet bend. So this particular collar here, and I might as well show you exactly how it's done. This is a cast iron collar that you can see this is male, this is female. This will sit over the collar itself, and you can see that there's a gap between the outside diameter of the cast iron closet bend and the inside of the closet collar. Well, that has to be filled with something. Now, these come different depths. They come as shallow as 1 inch, and they come as deep as 8. This is kind of a typical 3.5 to 4 inch right here. The way this is done is your plumber or your mechanical contractor will have essentially a pot like this here. Looks like a pot that you'd make like hobo stew in, but it's a pot, a cast iron pot. This would sit on a burner that's sitting on a furnace that's usually typically sitting on the ground and burning propane. In that, what he would do is he would take a pig of iron. This is called a pig. This is 5 pounds. This is 5 pounds of lead. 5 pounds of pig lead that he would sit into here. He'd wait until that melts and it's molten. While that is melting, what he would do is he would take some oakum. This happens to be oiled oakum here, which is nothing but hemp or jute. Break this. He would jam this into this area here, and it would act as a dam. Once this is molten, and this lead is molten, what he would do is he would take the ladle, hold it here, pour it into that space. As soon as that molten lead hits the surface, the cold surface of the iron, it'll solidify. At that point, you can do one of 2 things. You can either walk away from it, or another school of thought is what you do is you pound the lead. There's chisels that are made for it and specific tools for it, but it's really nothing but a cold chisel that you take and you pound in, and you're compressing the lead in there. And that's the way that this would be mechanically fastened to the closet bend itself. Now, once you decide what kind of toilet that you're going to install, and we'll talk about the replacement market. In order to replace an existing toilet, there's a few things that you have to do. The first thing that you should do is almost all water supply for a regular tank and bowl toilet, that like we're looking at over here, is being fed on the left side of the tank below rim level. Now almost always you'd have some kind of valve there. And stubbed out of the wall, you typically would have really one of four things. You'd have half-inch steel pipe, you'd have 3/8 steel pipe, you'd have half-inch copper, or it could be a brass nipple, either half-inch or 3/8. So I imagine there's really like 5 different possibilities. In other parts of the country, it could be other materials. It could be PEX tubing, it could be CPVC, whatever the code allows. You should have a valve of some kind there. So what you would need to do then is shut the valve off. So now you've killed the water supply to the tank. The next thing that you would do is you essentially would flush the toilet. By doing that, you take the water that's in the tank, emptying it into the bowl. And then you would lift the tank cover off, and there'll still be some remaining water in there. The best thing to do at that point would be just to sponge that water out, bring it into a bucket, just to get it out of the way. Now you still have water sitting in the bowl itself. Now you can move this out in one piece or move the bowl out with water in it. But it's smarter for you to do one of a couple different things. They make actually a pellet that you can put in there that will take and will absorb all the water and become like a solid pellet. That's one thing. We sell them here. Another thing is just to take a sponge, put the sponge in there, get that water out of there, wring it into that same bucket so it's nice and dry. Or you could do a rag, whichever, any of those 3 would work fine. But now you still have a bowl and you have a tank that you have to get rid of. What's the next step? Well, first thing is get this out of the way, because invariably this will fall down, this will break, somebody's going to get hurt. So just get this out of the way someplace. I'm putting this here just for now. Now what you have to do is, you can't try to take both of these out at one time. It's smarter for you to take a look inside there, and since this is mechanically fastened to the bowl, what you can do is reach underneath here and try and loosen the nuts that are holding the tank to the bowl. 10% of the time they'll come off easily, and the other 90% of the time with a lot of difficulty. You can try and loosen it. You can spray some WD-40, some liquid wrench, some PB Buster, something to try and loosen those nuts, and it may help. You have to be patient, spray it on there, walk away, do something else, come back. If it still is stubborn and doesn't want to cooperate, just give up with that. Take your Sawzall, which is a reciprocating saw, put it in the space over here, cut the bolts off. Then lift the tank off and walk it out of that room. Walk it out of the room, get this out of there. It's now an easier installation, easier removal for you. The next thing that you have to do is you have to get the bolt cap covers off. They could be plastic, they could be china. There could be 2, there may be 4. The most important ones are the ones which are closest to the wall. Those are the ones that are actually fastening that bowl to this collar here. What you do is you pry or you break those off. After you do that, you try and loosen those bolts, the nuts on those bolts. Will they come off? Probably not. Probably not. Cut them off. Once you cut them off, then what you'll do is you lift that bowl up and walk it out of that room. Now what you'll have is, you should have an exposed closet collar like this, or if it's a newer installation, it could be a PVC closet collar of some sort. This happens to be a 4x3, it could be a 4x4, but either way there should be something exposed. Of course now what you have is, you have gases coming up. You have methane gas, you have sewer gases, none of which are pleasant. If you have an open window, that's great. Try and get those gases out of there. But if you can minimize that, it would be smart. So you could always take a rag, jam that in there, or you could, which is pretty primitive, or you could just take a 4-inch Econo plug, which costs nothing, put that into the closet bend itself, tighten it down, and it'll keep the gases at least from coming up while you're working at it. Now when you're looking at this closet collar, imagine that this is the finished floor, the tile floor. If it's roughed in perfectly, it'll look like this. It'll be sitting on the floor. If it's roughed in high, that's a problem. That's a problem. If it's roughed in low, it's also a problem. The reason for that is all these toilets here are meant to be installed with this proper rough-in. The only time you'll ever run into something that is real high or really low is that there has been some remodeling that has happened or repair work that has happened in that building sometime within the last 5 years or 50 years or 80 years. Someone's done something and that floor level has changed. If it's too high, almost assuredly, you're going to have to remove that collar. That's something that we all know what your skill sets are. You all are comfortable with what you can do. A cast iron collar like this can be removed, and just as it didn't grow on here, it is removable. In order to remove it, there's different ways to do it. If you had access from below, you can grind it off and you can split it. If you're gutsy, you can split it from the top side with a hammer and a chisel. Or you can pick the lead out and then the oakum. All of which is pretty labor intensive, requires X amount of skill, strength, some experience. If you run into something really high, I wouldn't attempt it. That's when you call in your plumbing professional, your mechanical contractor to do that for you. Now, if it turns out to be low, it's probably as well within your skill set to be able to work on it. Since we know we want it to be here, and if it turns out to be low, there's a couple different solutions to it. One of the easier solutions is to take a closet collar extender. And all these really are just spacers. Now these spacers here, there's actually 4 different spacers here. Each one is a different thickness. You can mechanically fasten these to the existing collar to be able to bring it up to the appropriate height. This is a very, very clever, very simple way to be able to take a closet collar that's roughed in too low and bring it up to the right height. Is this the best way to do it? No, it is not. The best way to do it is to remove the collar and let in the collar at the right height. But every job is different. Every situation is different. You're not going to be doing this on a Sunday night. In that case, this will work, and this will last quite a long time, too. The worst thing that you can do with a low rough-in is to pile wax rings. And we'll get to what this is here. But the worst thing that you can do is pile wax rings to the appropriate heights. That is really just an accident just waiting to happen. A failure just waiting to happen. So let's say we've gotten to the closet collar, and it's roughed in at the right height, but it doesn't look like this. You can see this is a complete circle here. Let's say that this portion here that the bolts fit in, or this portion here where the bolts fit in, isn't there. It's just broken off. Well, the best way, once again, is to have the collar removed and let a new collar in. But if it is a Sunday night, or you're not prepared to do this because you're going to be doing some remodeling in the near future, and you just want to get a toilet in there, there's a solution to that too. There are these little half moons that are made out of steel. That are called closet collar savers, a very clever name. Doesn't say that here, but that's what they are. They're closet collar savers. But let's say that this was broken off. Think of this as a washer, a curved washer. What you would do is you would take the closet bolts, put this in here, take this little half moon there, put it underneath the broken part, and it would act as a washer. You could have one on the top, one on the bottom, and encapsulate that bolt and mechanically fasten it to the collar. So now that even though this part is broken, as long as the broken part does not exceed the overall length of this, you'd be able to use this collar and safely and efficiently install the new toilet. Very clever idea. We sell these, and we sell a lot of these for a very good reason. Now that we have the closet collar at the right height, and it's not broken, and we're ready to go, now you're looking at that collar, and you said, now there's probably excess putty there. There might be old wax there. There could be something there. It's very important that no matter how you do the installation, that you have a clean bed, that you have a clean surface area to be able to install the new toilet. No matter if you're installing a one-piece toilet, a close couple combination, or a spud bowl, there's several different ways that you can set it. Because you can't just take the bowl itself, lay it on top of a collar, no matter if it's cast iron or PVC, and get an adequate seal for either liquid or for gas. You need to form some kind of dam underneath there. Traditional way to do it is with plumber's putty. You take plumber's putty. This is a 5-pounder. You typically do it as little as 3 pounds. Take it and you would make a dam on the collar, and then when you set the bowl, that bowl would sit on top of it. It would form the shape underneath and get a watertight and also a fume-tight seal. That's plumber's putty. If it's an old-time plumber, somebody who's a union plumber here in Chicago, he or she were taught to use putty exclusively. Oftentimes you'll see wax rings. Wax rings will also serve the same purpose as putty. Now wax rings are meant to go onto the horn, which is the bottom part of a toilet, to make your seal. The wax rings are available either with horns, which refers to this plastic insert in the inside, or plain. Also an efficient way to be able to set a bowl on a closet collar. Another method, which is used a lot in high-rise work. In a high-rise, if you're up 95 stories up, it's amazing how much movement you have up there. It's just amazing. You can lose the seal in putty. You can lose the seal in wax. So you need something that's really flexible. That's what these were designed for high-rise work. Very flexible, very malleable, and they're made for that kind of movement. This gasket will not break down, and it's also the advantages if you ever have to pull a bowl, especially in a commercial job. Things get broken in commercial jobs. You don't have to scrape off old putty, scrape off old wax. You lift this up, set another one in, and you're out of there. A 2015 version of that, yes?
I was just wondering, what was that called? A high-rise gasket?
It's just a high-rise rubber gasket. Okay, closet gasket. This is the 2015 version of that. This was actually designed for mobile homes. And when I say mobile homes, I'm not talking about like a double wide that's sitting on blocks, but actually a mobile home. Think how much movement you have there. Could you set a toilet using wax in that and not fail? Could not. This will work perfectly. That's what this was designed for. This is extremely forgiving. So if you had never done one of these before, this is much more forgiving than putty, much more forgiving than this gasket, much more forgiving than a wax ring. So if it's your first time, something like this is this can hide a multitude of sins. Now, once you've done your installation and you've decided to set your bowl, and you set the bowl using either wax or one of these other ways that you can set it, now you have to take, if it's a 2-piece toilet, you have to take the tank and you have to mechanically fasten it to the bowl. All toilets, if they're 2-piece toilets, have some kind of gasket between the tank and the bowl. It's called a close couple gasket. This is kind of a typical 2-inch close couple gaskets. A lot of new toilets that you buy are using a 3-inch flush valve instead, and they're using a larger, oversized gasket. When you install the tank to the bowl, they will include bolts, be it either 2 or 3, that have washers on the inside and the outside. So if it's done right, you've taken the water that's in this tank and you've completely encapsulated it so there's no way it could leak out of there. And then you mechanically fasten the tank to the bowl. This is a situation where you have to resist the temptation to give it that little extra tightening. These tanks come from the factory absolutely perfect. If they get broken, people oftentimes ask me, what's the guarantee on toilets? The only thing we can guarantee you is that there's a toilet in that box. It's like trying to put a guarantee for glass. All we can guarantee you is you could break it. So you have to resist that temptation to over-tighten the tank to the bowl. The same holds true with the bowl. When you take the closet bolts and you fasten that bowl to the closet collar itself, what you're doing is you're compressing the wax, compressing the gasket, compressing the putty, and once you tighten it down, you have to kind of walk away from that. The same holds true with the water supply. When you hook up the water supply to fill this, there's different kinds of water supplies that you can use. If it's commercial work, or if it's high-rise work, you have to use solid tubes like these. They're solid, but they're extremely malleable. You can bend them easily. You can put in saddles. This is a nice, clean, professional way to be able to get water into those tanks. This is a lot easier. This is a braided stainless steel supply tube. You can't use it for commercial work, and you can't use it for high-rise work. And these nuts up here on the top are available two different ways. They're available in plastic, and they're also available in metal. These will sustain all kinds of spikes in pressure, so they are very durable. They're just not as durable as this. So if you were to do an installation in a high-rise or in your business, an inspector came over and said, everything looks really good, except take it out, he or she is only doing their job. This will last indefinitely, and this will hold up much longer than this. The thing that breaks this down, surprisingly, is not water pressure, not water conditions either, but typically cleaning chemicals. Cleaning chemicals. The ammonia and the cleaning chemicals that people use will oftentimes break down the material inside of here, where the water is actually passing through here. That's their main objection to it. And it does happen. If it happens, if you get a little water in your house, what happens is you'll do some damage. I mean, you may damage your books, you might damage your rugs, you might damage your flooring. But if this happens on the 95th floor and water keeps pouring down, you don't have $1 million of damage. You've got tens of millions of dollars of damage. So that's why I use solid tubes for that. Any questions about selection of toilets or about installation? Yes?
There's canister toilets.
Yes.
And the canister is, 3 inches?
Yes.
So it makes a larger one.
Yes.
What is the disadvantage? Because it seems like everything is to the advantage of it. All you do is lift it up and it just drops down.
Actually, there's no disadvantage at all. What happens is most toilets that you're going to be buying, and we'll be getting to that really quickly, most toilets that you're going to be buying will be using some kind of canister technology. This has been around since the 60s. This is a small canister. This is a variation of what you're describing. This is not using a flapper. This falls vertically and makes the seal. The 3-inch canister like you're describing, any number of manufacturers is doing just that right now. It's really a variation on this 50-year-old technology right here. Any other question about installation? Okay. Let's talk about different kinds of toilets and how they rate them and why you would buy one versus the other one. When you buy a toilet, you're buying it because either for replacement or for remodeling or for rehab, you're buying it, could be based on styling. Some toilets look traditional, some look contemporary, some look transitional. But more likely than not, you're buying it for a very specific, you're trying to need a specific kind of performance level. And by performance level, we're just referring to how well they flush. Years ago, toilets flushed with as much as 7 gallons. Those typically were tanks that hung on the wall that had a flush shell coming in the back of a spud bowl of some kind. Then they choked them down to 5 gallons. And then for at least 40 years, toilets were flushing with 3.5 gallons of water. And they worked really well. About 30 years ago, we made the switch over from 3.5 gallon to 1.6, which is kind of an odd amount of water. And the only reason why it came out to be 1.6 was because in Europe and parts of the Orient, they had been using the 6-liter technology. And that 6-liter, it just worked out to be 1.6 gallons of water. That's what it is. Everybody in the industry, and I was part of that, everybody in the industry knew that we're going to have to make that changeover. They had plenty of time to do it. And then finally, when it was enacted, everybody kind of threw their hands up and said, what do we do now? How are we going to get these toilets to flush with not even half the amount of water that it did last month? But it was a good reason. I mean, there was a reason for that panic, because they didn't work. But luckily, as Americans, we're very smart, very ingenious. That's the reason why we're the greatest country in the world. We can make anything, and we make it better than anybody else. It took about a year to get all the bugs out. And I can guarantee you now that all those horror stories that you hear, all those urban legends that the 1.6 gallon toilets don't work, they're just that. They're urban legends. The toilets that you buy now that use 1.6 gallons of water or use as little as 1.28 gallons of water will flush better than any 3.5s that were out there before. And I'm just going to tell you this, all those stories where people were driving up to Canada and buying 3.5 gallon toilets and selling them, and it's pretty much like selling them almost like bootleggers, like, who sent you? Well, Frank sent me. Okay, great. Then I'll sell you one. Those days are long gone, and you can confidently buy anything that's made by a reputable American manufacturer, and you know that toilet will flush. Why is it important to buy these 1.6, or why is it important to buy those 1.28s? Well, water's gotten to be very expensive. Processing water, because all water that goes in has to go somewhere. It's expensive enough to produce water, to make clean, potable water. It's a lot more expensive to clean up the water after, which is wastewater. Much, much more expensive. And the new technology is such that you will be finding everything on the market, and within the next 5 years, it'll be exclusively what you'll be seeing. All toilets will have 2 different kinds of flushes. So have one flush, which is using as little as 0.8 of water, 0.8 of 1 gallon of water, which is really what's needed 90% of the time, and 1.28 or less for the other 10% of the time when you have solid waste and paper. That's all that you'll be seeing. That will cut the water consumption for residential use dramatically in the United States and Canada, and worldwide. I mean, worldwide. It's something that we should be really, I mean, I know that people like myself in the industry, we're really proud of the steps that we've made to be able to save water and be able to affect the amount of water that we consume in this country, and Canada too. Any other questions about that? Yes?
Can you retrofit a standard toilet so that it flushes less?
Well, typically not, and I'll tell you, typically not.
Okay.
And the reason is, there's really a lot. You look at a toilet, a tank and a bowl toilet, or any kind of spud bowl, or a one-piece, you say, what is there to it? How simple a technology can it be? It's actually the water engineers who designed these go to great effort. So if for you, the bowl that you're talking about was probably designed to flush with 3.5 gallons of water. If you try to flush it with 1.6 or 1.28, more likely than not, what will happen is you'll have a low water condition in the bowl, which means the water surface area, a small water spot, or it'll flush inadequately, or both. So the answer is no. If you're trying to save water, the best thing to do is to invest a little bit of money And I say a little bit of money because it's amazing that anybody can manufacture a toilet and sell it for $100 or less. And they can. It's just amazing the amount of work that it's required to make a toilet and sell it for less than $100 and have it work adequately. Now, when you look at toilets are rated in how well they flush. And the way that they test them is they have to have a testing media. And the testing media that they usually use is a product like miso. There are toilets out there, and we use Gerber as an example. Everybody out there, no matter if it's Gerber or Toto, American Standard, Kohler, Mansfield, Crane, Laughlin, you name it. Everybody has an entry-level toilet that moves about 600 grams of solid material, which is, in this case, the testing media is miso, but it's supposed to simulate waste and paper. So everybody has one that'll move 600 grams of waste. Those toilets are typically, we sell them for as little as $80, $90. So for $100 out the door, you get a toilet that works really, really well. By tweaking the flush valve, like you had talked about, by using a canister or an oversized flush valve from 2 to 3, you can move as much as 1,000 grams of solid material. And for as little as $150, $160, you can buy a toilet that'll move 40% more solid material. That 40% difference in performance is well worth the $50 that you invest. So when someone buys something and it's moving and it's not performing well, and they spend $60 for it, and it doesn't flush, well, it's just like an inexpensive tool. Nobody can afford to buy a cheap tool. And nobody can afford to buy a cheap toilet. Because when you need it to work, it's not going to work. So it's something where you really get what you pay for. And our industry, or my industry, may be the only industry out there where I can see, because you're here and listening, you're a very informed audience, informed public, informed buyers. But the rest of the public out there, they think this is the only industry where things should cost nothing and last forever. And I'm thinking, the truck that you have out there, you spent $75,000 for that truck. As soon as that truck drove out of the driveway and hit the street, it's now worth $65,000. And in a year, it's worth $50,000. But you don't want to spend $150 or $200 for a toilet. It just amazes me. But nonetheless, I know you know better than that. But there's a lot of great products out there. What you buy from us will be Gerber products or Delta products or Orion products, all of which will be able to perform very, very well. So when you buy them, they'll be asking, when you go back there, the men are extremely smart, very well trained, and very experienced. They'll ask you those questions. What's the rough? Is it 10, 12, or 14? Do you need elongated or round bowl? Do you need ADA height or comfort height or universal height or standard height? Or do you need a spud bowl? They'll ask you those questions. Once you give them those answers and those variables now became constants, they'll know what to sell you. And they'll be able to sell you a product that I can guarantee you that will work perfectly for your application. Any other questions about selection or products? Yes?
You said that tall one is a comfort height, right?
Yes, they refer to it as comfort height.
I gotta change one myself.
Right, it's a euphemism or just a name for the same thing.
Oh, okay.
Handicapped height has a negative connotation.
Oh, okay.
Even though people are handicapped, they're our neighbors, they're our friends, they're our relatives.
All right.
Americans with ADA height is also Americans with Disability Act. That's the same thing. So that they use comfort heights as just a euphemism or universal height.
Okay, thank you.
It's a term for the same thing. Yes? You measure from the finished wall to the bolt that's holding the bowl down to the floor. If there's 4 bolts, you measure from the bolts which are closest to the wall. If it's 12 inches, you can buy practically anything. If it's 10 or 14, you'll be very limited as to what you can buy. Yes?
Thank you. I just want to make a comment for anyone who's changing their toilet. They should measure from the wall to the edge of the rim, because sometimes the bathroom door may be a little close.
That's
And
actually,
so,
that's actually a good point, if it's a small bathroom where you have a door that swings in, and they typically do swing in, you have to, a regular bowl toilet, a normal close couple combination that's installed, no matter whose it is typically between 27 and 28 inches from the finished wall to the edge of the rim. That's if it's roughed in properly, and that's counting with about a 3/4 inch space between the back of the tank and the wall. So something is roughed in on the nose, and the wall is plumb, and the wall is square, you'll have a 3/4 space between the 3/4 of an inch space between the tank and between the back of the tank and the wall. If it's roughed in at 13 or an odd measurement, of course that'll either be more or less. You can install a 12-inch rough toilet in an installation that where the walls are square and plumb with as little as 11 1/4. Of course, that 11 1/4 can barely put your business card between the back of the tank and the wall. So if that's the case, you may want to pop for a 10-inch rough instead. Yes?
A regular toilet with these sort of jet flushes.
Actually, that's a great product. We sell them here too. They're called the Ultra Flushes, and we actually use them in our public areas here. There, instead of having water sitting in a tank with a flapper or a canister, some way to let the water go from the tank into the bowl to create a siphon or a reverse trap or a wash down, what you have is, if you were to buy one of those Ultra Flushes and you took the tank cover in, you'd look in there and you'd say, where's the water? Well, there is no water there. You won't see it in there. Because what you'll have in there is a plastic vessel. With that plastic vessel, of course, is hollow. And what happens is, when you flush the toilet, water will come to refill. It'll fill that plastic vessel about 3/4 full of water. It creates an air space or an air gap in the top. When you hit the trip lever, what it does is it presses down on a piston that takes that compressed air in the top, forces the water down very rapidly, and creates a wash-down style toilet. Now, if your entry-level toilet flushes 800 grams of solid material, the next level up is 800, the next one up is 1,000, the Ultra Flush will flush 1,200 grams of solid material per flush, using as little as 1.28 gallons of water.
That you can retrofit?
No, you cannot, because the bowl is designed differently too.
I figured that.
The rim holes are different. It's a wash-down style as opposed to a siphon jet or a reverse trap, so it's designed specifically for that. And the only disadvantage of anyone putting an Ultra Flush in is some people object to the noise because they're noisier than a conventional toilet, be it a one-piece or a two-piece, and they require more skill to repair.
Is there any problem with replacing it in an 80-year-old building? I mean, is it
No.
going to cause more pressure?
No, it does
on
not.
old drains?
There is no problem with that at all. That's a very good question, because we've heard those urban legends too. You put those in, they blow the pipes apart, bad things happen. Those are legends. Matter of fact, there's also another legend which I have to address with the Ultra Flush, and that is the vessel explodes. They get a spike in pressure. The vessel explodes. The tank cover comes up. Shards of broken vitreous china, which is shrapnel, shreds people's bodies to pieces. Well, there are lawsuits out there. Has that happened? Yes, it has happened. Has it happened because someone probably, and I'm not part of the suit, happened because someone tampered with the tank? I would say more likely than not, and I can say that because I'm not part of the suit, but more likely than not. Any other questions about selection or choices? Okay. Now you've installed a toilet, and you have it in your home, in your office, in your restaurant, in your business. It's there. Nothing lasts forever. Even though it's plumbing, nothing lasts forever. So things do break down, and they do have to be repaired. What's the most common thing that goes wrong with any toilet in your house, your office, or your business? Running water. What else? What else? Leakage. Or, better yet, it doesn't flush. Somebody threw something in there that doesn't belong in there. The only thing that belongs in a bowl of a toilet is waste, water, and toilet paper. Nothing else. Not Kleenex, because flu season's coming up. Kleenex does not dissolve. Can't put Kleenex in a bowl. It will not dissolve. In spite of all those cottontail commercials and stuff, wipes cannot go into a bowl. They can't go there. They will not flush. So when you look in there, or some guest is using your bathroom, and he or she comes out with that sheepish kind of look, like, you got to take a look in there. Well, something got thrown in there that doesn't belong in there. Now, the fastest thing to do is to grab a plunger. So we're going to go from sophisticated talk to very unsophisticated things. First thing that you can do is get a plunger. Now, this is an old school plunger. This has not changed in 100 years. And I really mean 100 years. There's all kinds of variations on it. They're purple, they're blue, they're red, they're green, they're yellow. Why are they out there? Because who's going to buy it? Who's going to buy something unless it's a yellow or blue or purple or different? No one will buy it. This is by far the most effective thing to do. You start with the plunger. If the plunger does not clear that, then you have to take the next step. Now, 90% of stoppages in a bowl, 90% of problems with bowls not flushing are localized. They're actually in the bowl. If the plunger doesn't do it, then you have to go to a closet. You have to go to a tool like this here. Okay? Now, a tool like this is something that every homeowner should have, every property owner should have, every business owner should have. So what you have over here, this is a closet auger. They come in different varieties. They come expensive. They come cheap. And they come like this here. This is by far the most versatile of all of them. It's not the cheapest, and it's not the most expensive either. This is the one to use. Because this you can use in about 90% of all the different toilets that are out there. The only one that you can't use it in is in a pressure-assisted toilet, because none of these augers really work well in a pressure-assisted toilet just because of the way that the trap is designed. If you've never used one of these, I'll show you how to use it. You'll take it and you'll unhook it. You'll lay it down. I'll just assume that everyone here is right-handed. Let's say, except for you. Now you're left-handed. Okay? You pull this up. You put this into the bowl. With now this part of the cable is now going up into the trap area. You'll steady it there. You hold it. You'll steady it with your left hand. You give it a little jerk with your right. And now I've pushed it up. Then what I'll do is I'll steady it. I'll turn this. And as I turn this, what I'm doing is I'm going up. I'm coming back down. And at that point, I'm actually in the closet bend here. I'm actually right here on a standard closet bend. What I've done is I've either broken up the stoppage, which could be paper, it could be Kleenex, it could be wipes, it could be a lady dropped a comb from her hair, someone dropped some glasses in there, maybe someone's cell phone is now gone. One or two, any of those things are possible. So as you retrieve it, same thing, reverse the press, little jerk, then bring it back out, test it, and if it flushes, you walk away. What you do then is you bring this down, wipe it clean, take some kind of oil or WD-40 to keep it from rusting, click it in here, put it somewhere else for the next time. Everybody needs to buy one of these. We have them for sale back there. So everybody should go back there and buy one of these today. Okay?
Plumbing on line 1. Plumbing on
Now, other than the toilet not working, not flushing, the next problematic thing and the most common thing is it's running. Why is it running? Why is it running? There could be a couple reasons why it's running. If water is running from the tank into the bowl, it's going to be one of a couple different things. The first thing to do is to figure out, you can visually look inside there and see, is something odd? Is something missing? Is something broken? Well, you may not be able to tell that just visually. So what you do then is you shut off the water to the tank. What you can do then is you can take a little bit of food coloring, pick a color, be it red, be it purple, bluing, something. Put it into that water in the tank. If the water in the bowl turns that color, then you know the water is just seeping from the tank into the bowl. If that's the case, it's probably a fairly easy fix. It may be as simple as just removing the flapper. I just wanted to show you a couple of different styles of flappers. This is the most universal fit that fits about 70% of them. This is a specialized flapper. You can see larger, different center line, made for Toto toilets. And we have about 25 other ones back there. So while this fits 80% of them, the other 20% is filled with those other 25 other kind of flappers I have back there. Now, if the water doesn't turn, then it could be something as simple as the fill valve is not working. If the fill valve doesn't work, it could be a brass ball cock like this, very quiet, extremely durable, very old school, and very good. Or it could be a Fluid Master. These have been around for about 40 years now. Yeah, almost 40 years now. Time flies. Almost 40 years. Plastic, fully adjustable, easy to install. Or it could be, these have been around for about 10 years. A Hunter valve. Or you may run into something very unusual looking like these. All of these are repairable. All of these are fixable. But you know how valuable your time is. The time that it takes to fix this, the time that it takes to fix this, or this, even if it's something as just replacing the parts like this seal here, or this seal, which are proprietary and they're made specifically for these here, oftentimes the time offsets the money that you would spend to just walk in, buy a new fill valve, and replace the fill valve. And don't look at it again for the next 10 years. Now, if you have 500 units, that's a different story. Because at $10 a crack or $15 a crack, it can add up. But if it's a single-family home, or a 2-flat, or a 3-flat, or a 6-unit building, or even a 24-unit building, it's more likely smarter for you to just come in, buy a new fill valve of some kind, and install it. Any questions about these? What else goes bad on the toilet? The trip levers break. The trip levers. Now the trip lever, everyone says a trip lever is a trip lever is a trip lever. Well, it is, except each and every one is a little different. They can be mounted on the front. They can be mounted on the side. They can be mounted on the top with a button that you press on there. But they all have certain things in common. They all have to be mechanically fastened somehow to the tank. The best way to replace or to purchase a new trip lever is to remove it and to bring it in. So when you take off that tank cover and you look, what's holding that in there? And you see a nut on there, and you do the smart thing, the thing that we all know. To unloosen something, you turn it counterclockwise. Well, you turn it counterclockwise, and all you do is tighten it, in this case here. But this is one of the few situations you're going to run into, that the vast majority of those nuts that hold the trip levers or mechanically fasten the trip levers to the tank are a reverse thread. So you'll be turning it counterclockwise to remove it. But bring those in. If you bring it in, we can easily help you with that. And I have an example of some of these bread and butter type of trip levers. This is the most bread and butter of all of them. Just a plastic trip lever that can be bent. And once you bend it, it has a memory. And it will maintain that same shape if you have to bend it. This is a side lever. that also can be bent. This is used a lot for the Toto toilets, especially the one-piece Toto toilets. And this one over here is a proprietary one that is used specifically for that flush valve like you were talking about earlier, which is a variation on this. It's a square stock that would go into here and lift this whole canister up. Any other questions? The one thing which we haven't discussed is that there's going to be certain tools that you absolutely positively need to be able to do any of this work. Now, you'll look in your toolbox and you will find things and you'll say, I can use that. Well, maybe you can use it. But just in case you don't have it, you need to get channel locks. You need channel locks to do this. There's a lot of these slip joint pliers. I strongly recommend that you buy channel lock slip joint pliers. Just like we said earlier, nobody can afford to buy cheap tools because cheap tool will break and you will get hurt using cheap tools. They slip, they break. You could take a inexpensive pair of slip joint pliers there and any of the men over here, I won't say the ladies, but any of the men here are strong enough to grab those and actually break them. You won't do it with this. In addition to channel locks, you need some kind of scraper to be able to take the plumber's putty, the wax. A very flexible scraper won't really do the job. So get something that's stiff like this to be able to get the old putty and wax ring off. If you are going to make an attempt to take the tank off the bowl without cutting it off, you can't use a tiny little baby screwdriver like this. You'll need a real screwdriver, so buy a real screwdriver like this. And when it does come time that you're going to be mounting the bowl to the closet collar, instead of using the channel locks, it'd be nice if you got yourself some kind of crescent wrench. This is a little baby wrench. These little baby wrenches come in handy for those little spaces that you're going to be working in. And this is plenty big for the nuts for the closet bolts. And lastly, if you want to do a nice clean looking job, everything should be plumb, everything should be level. So make sure that you have a torpedo level so you can check to see when you're all done, is that tank level? Is that bowl level? That's the thing that kind of separates the men from the boys, the professionals from the non-professionals. Okay? Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Does a wax ring last on a toilet?
A wax ring? Actually, a wax ring most likely will never deteriorate. The only thing that you can do with a wax ring is, if you have some movement, you can easily break a seal, but that's only through movement.
Okay.
But will it break down? It will not break down, no.